Hey, this is Chris Cohen from Bands to Fans, and you're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
This is Bob Bender, and you're listening to this edition of the business side of music. Today in the studio, we have I'm going to call them the Americana group, because I really don't think they fit in any other spectrum, but their music, I think, speaks for itself. Stereo Chickens, which had the opportunity of meeting Ken McMeans, a few years ago, who then introduced me to Tom Walters and Cynthia Ford. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
having
be here.
us.
So you're the founding member of Stereo Chickens, and when I first saw it, it was you and your wife.
Yes.
Doing a little duet, and it has since grown into what this is now.
It has evolved. You know, they say that chickens evolved from dinosaurs, so I think this is...
Are you saying you're a dinosaur?
I don't know what
That's what it was. You called that?
I have no idea what I meant by that, but
Yeah.
I keep seeing these T-Rex diagrams where the rooster has descended or evolved from the T-Rex. So sometimes chickens are very angry.
That's right.
And
We
in the
do get
studio
angry.
today, too, we have Gary Lux, who we had on a previous episode. Gary's the producer of this project. Gary, welcome
Thank
again.
you. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, Gary.
Glad to have you. You all have distinctive parts in regards to this. You all sing, correct?
We all sing. Mm-hmm.
Tom, you're the mandolin player.
Mm-hmm.
Any other instruments we should be aware of?
Not in this group. I play guitar, but basically mainly mandolin in this group.
Ken, of course, you're the guitar player.
Because I can't play mandolin.
Yeah. and Cynthia.
And I play everything else they don't want to play.
Yeah. they're-
Primarily percussion with these gafties.
Okay, so the first question we have to ask is how did this motley group get together here?
This motley group, Tom was the product of a broken home.
Let's back up here.
We
now.
met Tom. He was playing with Christine Rogers in a group duo called Sweet Audrey a few years ago.
Chasing Audrey.
And Chasing Audrey, yeah. And she moved back to Maine, and Tom was a free agent, and he was at our house one day, and we were just playing with a bunch of musicians, and he played along with my wife and I said, "You want to be a chicken?" It was basically that was it, and he filled in on one of the shows, just sat in, and that's how it began.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
How did Cynthia come in?
Cynthia, well, we've been watching Cynthia for a long time, and when my
Yikes.
wife left the group, she was the only one willing to fill those shoes.
Oh, that's not true.
That's not true.
There was
But
a line of
no,
us around the block, and I was the best one.
She was. No, Cynthia is.
I think we're going to let Cynthia do the talking.
She's just was such a perfect fit for this group, and she's a really hard worker and puts in the time, and so she's been a great asset to us.
So you guys got into the studio, started recording, but before that you had to find the songs. And Gary and I talked a little bit about that on the previous episode. How did you find this material?
Wrote it.
We wrote, with the exception, I'm a big fan of a guy in Europe named Jack Severetti, who's just become just sort of taken off really big there. And Cynthia and I do this duet called Crazy Fool that was written by Jack Severetti and that he had done as an acoustic duet. And one of the songs, it's just a song that we love to sing in shows. We've been doing it in every show and never get tired of it.
No.
And so we wanted to have that song on the record. Everything else that will end up being on this record we've written ourselves.
How many cuts?
On this, right now we have 3 that we recorded with Gary's studio, and there's hopes for more.
2 of those are original?
2 originals, and
Who were the songwriters on that?
one was with 4 writers, actually. It was, or 5, wasn't
5
it?
writers.
5 writers, yeah. Great Big Sky, which is a really beautiful song, which is kind of inspired by Sarah Darling, who was in town, a client of Ken's, who performed, and we had, let's come, so they came to my house, and we sat around a table, along with her guitarist, Cheyenne Meadows, and
my wife.
and yes, and Elizabeth McMeans, and we wrote this what I think is a very beautiful song, and she kind of had the original idea, Sarah Darling, of, because she was recently on the road and Great Big Sky. I've always wanted to write a song about, I'm evaluating my life and I'm in this spacious environment, and so we kind of took it from there, and I think it was like an hour and a half we had this song, and
5 people writing a song is a very unusual occurrence.
How about we take a moment and listen to a piece of this?
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great Big Sky.
Rows of gold, fields of rain, empty road across the plain, and it's a long way home, and I need a change. I've grown tired of the same old same. It's a great big sky. It's a great big sky. There's a rising sun on the horizon line, an open door to a drifter's mind, and I know there's more, 'cause I can feel that love shining down when I'm looking up. It's a great big sky. It's a great big sky. It's a great big sky. Rows of gold, fields of rain. This painted canvas has no frame. It's a great big sky. It's a great big sky. It's a great big sky. It's a great big sky.
I got to listen to it in your car, Ken, a month or so ago, I guess. We were over in Morro Bay on the coast, and, you have your morning coffee and your pastry, and you're sitting in the little bakery, and then, this guy drags you out to his car and goes, "You got to hear this song." And, I think I told you at that point, it was like, reminded me so much of like early Eagles or Poco or, that style of music that to me, the embodiment of just great vocals and telling a story like that, I loved it.
Yeah, I think it's along like Eva Cassidy's Fields of Gold. I think it's got that kind of feel to it. Cynthia just kills it on this song. Her voice.
You do. It is.
Her voice is
Thank you.
just simply amazing.
I remember I was not part of the group when I first heard that song, and I've been a fan of the Stereo Chickens for quite some time. I was a fan of Ken and Elizabeth and went to almost all of their shows. So it was an easy transition for me to step in because I knew what they did, and I knew a lot of their catalog because I'd seen them so many times. But I will never forget when I very, very first heard Great Big Sky. It was at Morro Bay, and Sarah was playing there with you and Elizabeth and Cheyenne, her guitar player, and they played that song, and I was sitting at one of those little tiny tables right up next to them, and I just remember being like, I cannot believe what a beautiful song. And it was brand new, a little clunky
we
even
wrote it
yet.
that morning, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just...
First time we played it, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that was the first time we played it. We've written that day, right?
Yeah, right.
Was it that day? Oh, it
Yeah.
was just...
Yeah.
I think Sarah was reading off of her phone.
Yeah.
The lyrics. And it was just... I feel so blessed to be able to sing that song. So lucky and honored, yeah.
Gary, when you first heard this song, what were your thoughts?
You know, it's interesting when I first hear a song, I get impressed by certainly what it is, because I believe that a great song will move you if you hear it with two Dixie cups and a string in between. You know, the emotion of the whole thing. It was there, and then of course what it became was more than what I really expected. It became a real soundscape, and it became a real orchestrated piece. And you know, I always know the songs are going to sound great at the end, but I'm not always sure on how exactly we get there. But every time we did something more to it, it got more special every time. And I really think it's a very distinctive sound for this group, which is unique and makes them stand apart from others.
I think I go back to my original comment was it started reminding me of, and you start thinking of these great groups that really no one's emulating these days. You know, it's all become so pop and techno and, you know, beats per minute. And to create this very almost free-flowing, smooth vocals, very soothing, and just it's kind of like cotton candy to your ears. To me, it's just real, you know, sweet, and I love it.
Thanks. I think that what happens with this group, which is a really cool part of who we're becoming, is that when we write a song and we start playing it, it actually evolves us, those songs. You know, recording that song with Gary has changed us musically already, and it helps us define what we're doing, because we're not emulating anybody else. I know that everybody says that, but the shows, you know, we have a very distinct sound that is evolving and changing, and but it is definitely us, and it's always us, and we let it be us.
Gary and Ken being the leader of the band, and Gary as the producer, really sort of lead us all on this like adventure. And I think we just have this spirit of like, let's see what happens next. Like it's always fun and sometimes a little scary, but what's life without a little excitement?
Well, and I think being turned loose in the studio is kind of an adventure in itself that not a whole lot of people get to do.
Being in the studio is, for some people, it's their first time, you know, in the studio, certainly under the level that we're about to undertake. And I think the group, and I thank them for the trust that they had in me, because they responded very quickly, and they saw on how much effort it takes to do what we do, but how each day and everything that we did, the flower just kept growing and growing, especially in Great Big Sky. Truly one of the most beautiful songs I've ever produced.
This is Bob Bender with Gary Lux and the Stereo Chickens here in the studio today. You're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi, this is Vinny Rebus, the founder of Indie Connect. Our goal is to ensure that you have the knowledge, the tools, skills, resources, and connections that you need to develop a profitable and long-lasting career in music. One way we do this is through these Business Side of Music podcasts. I'd also like to invite you to check out Indie Connect magazine, our free multimedia online publication packed with practical interviews and advice from music industry experts. Go to www.indieconnectmag. That's www.indieconnectmag.com. Let us walk with you and guide you every step of your musical journey.
You're You're listening to the business side of music.
This is Bob Bender. You're listening to this edition of the Business Side of Music. In the studio today, we have Ken, Tom, and Cynthia with Stereo Chickens. Gary Lutz, their producer. Guys, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So, Cynthia, as we're taking a break, we're all kind of looking at you going, okay, you really made Stereo Chickens, didn't you?
Well, no. Well, that was a trick question.
Yeah.
Right?
No, but you
No.
came into the picture.
I'm the newest chicken,
Yeah.
the newest chicken to be hatched. But from my background, I was always a band leader and did all of that stuff in LA and New York and whatever. But what I can say about this experience is it is 10 times more fun to be a member of a group where everybody's contributing and we all sort of take those leaps of faith together.
Yeah.
And it's been a wonderful experience, truthfully.
How is it to work with these two guys?
Great. Ken's like my buddy, and we goof. We're like the children, and we play and have so much fun together. And Tom keeps us honest, which we need.
Sometimes we get in trouble with Tom.
Sometimes we get busted.
Or is it that Tom gets in trouble because of you guys?
No,
that happens. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's been great being on the road. Everybody's pretty easygoing, and we have some stories that we probably
have
shouldn't
some
get into right
stories. We were out on the road a lot through 2017, and so been to a lot of places: Alaska, Montana, Washington, all over California, and we have a lot of stories.
What's the response with the audience that you're playing in front of with the music?
We get consistently a nice response. We really do. I think they like our stage presence. We're engaging, funny.
The chicken hat I've seen you wear.
Yeah, but yeah, just and the music, like you said, is kind of fresh, and it's not your typical. We're not just straight playing bluegrass or straight country,
Right.
or we're doing kind of our own thing, and I think people are enjoying it. That's why there's been continual movement with the group. There's energy around it. Yeah.
You're still in the studio working?
I'm hoping we'll always be in the studio working.
Yeah.
You're still finding songs?
We are still finding songs to complete the EP, and we're sort of trading up songs as we go along.
You know what happens, Bob, when you come out of the gate with 3 songs that we did. The group has really evolved over the last 3-4 months, and so the bar has been set higher for the group.
Yeah.
So, it's my responsibility to keep pushing and keep the bar high and consistent. So the songs that come in now have to hold up to the ones we did. So, we're not just, making a record to fill a record. Everything that we do is calculated, and we're looking to impact our fans with what they would expect from us.
All killer, no filler. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
But I think that's actually a good terminology or analogy because, back in the record label days, we would release an album with 10 cuts or maybe 12 cuts.
And one would be the single,
One
and
would
the
be the
others
single,
would
yeah.
be
It'd be filler.
an album journey.
Yeah.
It's not that way. The business has really proved itself that it's really one song at one time, which is really cool for us because we can now move forward one song at a time. We don't have to take on 12 songs at a time. We don't have a record deal.
You're not trying to prove something with an album. You're
No,
just trying
we're
to
trying
get
to prove
the music out there.
to ourselves and continue with the groundswell that this group is creating and giving them what, is true to us and impacts them.
So where do the creative juices come from?
Well, we're all writers, so I think it's just in our DNA. So we get together. We've starting to do co-writing as a trio.
Does that seem to work better or easier than sitting individually, or?
It's different. I write a lot on my own, as I know Cynthia has, Ken has. It's just a different process. I think it's stimulating, and you sometimes get a better product because just taking that extra 10%, just that synergy of brainstorming that you get with, since we all, I think, are open to when you co-write, there's a whole thing of someone has a better idea, and are you going to take it personally, or are you going to go step back and go, well, let me think about that.
But I think that's the part that we've developed within ourselves with the group, their trust in me, what they expect from me, and so they're, I'm sitting at a higher level, so they're submitting to me all the time, and so it kind of helps filter things out. So we're looking for something that'll be special to complement the others, and so
we got a new.
Then it's got to get through me.
A little acronym. We got a WWGD in whatever we're doing, musically, writing, or rehearsing for a performance. What would Gary do? That's our new thing. So we sort of use that as our. How we're evaluating how something is going.
We're selling wristbands, by the way.
Yeah.
It's our first product.
When we're writing, because having worked with Gary, and I've never really written like this, but when I wrote with Michael Peterson, the country artist, Michael liked to be arranging as he was writing the song, which is a totally different way of writing. And since we've been working with Gary, we've found ourselves sort of thinking about how that's going to play out in the studio when we get to that. So we have been, to some degree, arranging as we've been writing together pre-Gary, before it goes to Gary, even though he's going to totally, change it all. But maybe not.
Or not, yeah.
But it is good to be thinking, now that we're working with Gary, and he's been such a inspiration, such a great mentor for us musically, that it's affecting the way we're writing and the way we're thinking about what we're writing. So I think the songs from us as we go through this process will be, let me see more sophisticated right from the time we finish writing them before they've even got to.
And to toot Gary's horn, I mean, we have all commented every time we have a session with Gary how amazing he is to work with, and his ability to pull you to a higher level, but do it in a way that's gentle, funny, but doesn't lower the bar, just because he wants to be a nice guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. It's real work.
And it's hard work. Being in
yeah.
the studio on these 3 songs that we've done, it's very hard work. And it's at the end of the day, you're just going, you are just wiped out. And that's way different than, because I recorded a lot of songs for TV in the 80s, and we'd go in and we'd lay down all the tracks, and we'd do the vocals twice, and we were done. That's a wrap. And it's not like that in the work we're doing with Gary. It's very labor-intensive, and sometimes it's frustrating, and sometimes you're just, hoping you're going to get your part so you can go sit in the other room where everybody else has to be in here.
Yeah.
But in the end, the product is exceptional, and I think that what we have done with Gary at the helm has been exceptional.
And knowing his, his track record and his, his level of expertise, you can bear more of it, I think. It's like, okay, well, he knows what he's doing. He's not just, making us go through this exercise.
I can safely say for myself that it was the first time I was ready to hit the ground running at 7 a.m. Turn on the mic, let's go.
And we did.
And we did.
Yeah.
And you did.
And we did.
And I do say that first day we were in the studio with Gary, we would say, "Are you sure that's how you want us to sing that?" Because we didn't. It was our first day working with him, and we were questioning it. But after day one, after we weren't questioning it.
At the end of the day, a group like this is a vocal group. The sound of what they are is a vocal group. Their blend, they're a vocal group. The Beatles, at the end of the day, were a vocal group. Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, they're a vocal group. Stereo Chickens is a vocal group. Yes, we play instruments, and yes, it's that. But the blend of what they are is the personality of who they are, and they're a vocal group. And that's where nobody gets away with murder with me. So it's extremely, extremely difficult to produce vocals. It's easy to record vocals, but it's really tough to make this. And it was my responsibility to create the blend, create the sound, and that's who we are. And we're getting a great response of the uniqueness of what it is. And, I'm from New York, so there was no way that I was going to be able to produce a folk band. They asked me, they wanted it to be Americana, they wanted it to be edgy, so I felt that it was my responsibility to push a contemporariness, yet still hold the reins back to let everybody know we're still down home when we need to be down home, but we rock when we need to rock.
Yeah, and that was a concept that was relatively new to me to be able to accomplish all that in considering, things I'd done over the years.
We're going to take another break, get our sponsors in here, and when we come back, I want to talk about a couple of your other songs that I've had the opportunity to listen to. This is Bob Bender, and you're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music. Next up, the Indie Artist Spotlight, brought to you by Reverb Nation.
Like a piece of paper, I tear easily. I'm too sensitive to face reality. I've been broken into bits of glass, and I feel you trying to put me back. I've been living too long in the past tense, a shadow of myself hanging on regrets. One touch from you eases my mind. Hope you can bring me back to life. I'm half asleep, falling through clouds, crashing into you on my way down. Though I'm scared my heart might break, you're a feeling I can't shake. I close my eyes and I can see your reflection here with me. But dreaming's not enough, so I'm finally waking up.
Hi, this is Victoria Renee, and I'm a member of Reverb Nation.
Trying to make sense of what happened then. Not sure I can take that chance again.
I live in Los Angeles. You can consider my style of music soulful pop.
So fast, I need time to breathe. I take one step back.
Growing up, I listened to a lot of Marvin Gaye, Beyonce, Aretha Franklin. I love Jessie J, of course Britney, I'm a 90s kid.
Feels like home. Just promise to never let me go. I'm half asleep.
I performed recently at Southern Women in Film and Television Convention in Nashville. I've had the honor of performing at NAMM. I've opened up Ariana Grande.
You're a feeling I can't shake. I close my eyes and I can see your.
And my newest single is called A Better Tomorrow. It's on iTunes, Spotify, all the streaming platforms. Proceeds go to St. Jude Children's Hospital.
There'd be no sadness to cry. There'd be no selfish to lie. There'd be no reason for crying. There'd be no empty, no why. I see it when I close my eyes. Peace on earth and peace of mind. Let it go. We have to restore this planet's soul. Teach it something more than what we know. Give it water, give it sun, room to grow. We can build a better tomorrow. There'd be no nightmares, only dreams. There'd be no evil people with angel wings. There'd be no war zones, just simple things. There'd be more love than diamond rings. I see it when I close my eyes. Peace on me till dark is gone. Walking away still means you're strong. Rise above. Hope isn't gone. Let it go. We have to restore this planet. Restore the planet. Teach it something more than what we know. Give it water, give it sun, room to grow. Let the God of peace invade your soul. I can see a better tomorrow. Yeah. I can see a better tomorrow.
Once again, this is Victoria Renee, and I'm a member of Reverb Nation. And you can find me on the internet really anywhere, Twitter, Facebook, all those things at Victoria Renee, Renee, or Instagram, Victoria Renee Plummer, Plummer.
You're listening to the business side of music.
We're back. You're listening to this edition of the Business Side of Music. In the studio today with Tom, Cynthia, Ken from Stereo Chickens, Gary Lutz, their producer. Welcome back, folks.
Hey,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Couple songs that we touched briefly on, Crazy Fool, but let's jump ahead to Brothers in Arms, because that one I think has got some special significance to it.
Yeah, it certainly does. And for us, Texas icon Bob Livingston, who played with everybody. Los Gonzo Band was his band. Played with Jerry Jeff and Ray Wiley Hubbard, Michael Murphy, all of those guys. He was one of the founders of the Austin music scene, and he was up on the Central Coast, and we had a chance to write with him. And we didn't really know what we were going to write, and I had a vision that we really needed. We were opening all of our shows with Fire on the Mountain, the Marshall Tucker song, and I thought, well, we should have our own version of Fire on the Mountain. That was my original inspiration. Sort of this all changed, but we had been out antique shopping with Bob in Cambria, and we had gone into an antique store, and on the floor there was I saw a book that had the Confederate flag on it, and it was about the Confederacy. And I walked over and I pulled that book back, and behind it was a book about the Union Army. And I thought that was such a cool thing to see those two. And I said, Bob, check this out, and said, they're like brothers in arms, these two, and we started talking about the fact that during the Civil War, brothers were fighting against brothers. And then we started talking about the fact that hadn't really changed in our country. Since then, we've gone down this path a million times. So we went into the studio. This was a hard song to write. This was a 5-hour co-write. I remember thinking about that later, and we wanted to tell the story about America, but we didn't want to alienate anyone because of all of the polarization that's going on in the country. And so this was basically a song about why haven't we learned the lessons that we should have learned.
And Tom, you were saying the reaction with the audience has been good.
Yeah, well, it starts in the Civil War, and then 1864 is the beginning of the song. Then it goes to 1964, civil rights, and then it goes to the present moment. And in fact, we at the last minute after Charlottesville, we added a lyric about that, and the conflict that was going on there. So that has really resonated with audiences. They hear it. It doesn't matter what their political stripe is. That's what's interesting. They come up and they just, and that means we really achieved our goal. We didn't it's not about left or right. It's about people coming together and people coming apart. And we really are in a phase right now. We felt it was timely song because there kind of is a phase. There's a lot of division in the country right now, as you can see. And so it's a song we felt we needed to write, and we really have had a great response. In fact, one of our most recent performances, one guy just yelled out at the end, "That's your single," from the audience.
Yeah, and it's actually we've had some people that have been moved by it. I've had a number of people that have come up to me. I had a man that came up to me after we played it in the Eberly Caves, and he took out of his wallet, he took his military ID out and said to me, see, that's what we're fighting for. And attend this division and that. So, and, you know, we talked with that lady, the African-American lady that was actually back there in
She was back
Selma,
in civil rights in Selma.
in there, and she was moved to tears from this song, you know. So I hope that the song is a hopeful song.
Yeah.
You know, not, you know, we're not just talking about problems. Hopefully, you know, we're talking about hope.
Brothers in arms, where does it end and why did it start? We all get to choose if we're gonna do harm. Hold on now, my brothers in arms. It was 1864, door was closing on that Civil War, tearing all our families apart. Losing limbs, we lost our heart. Shiloh, Vicksburg, and Bull Run damn near killed everyone. I saw battles like no other. I saw brothers killing brothers. Gray and white, black and blue, bleeding colors running through. Broken hearts, broken homes, so many lovers left alone. Headstones, bones, and babies' cries. I could see those hollow eyes. Those are soldiers in the night. Freedom's price is much too high. Brothers in arms, brothers in war, don't even know what we're fighting for. Lost in the fog, can't see the shore, and truth doesn't shine here anymore. Brothers together, brothers apart. Where does it end and why did it start? We all get to choose if we're gonna do harm. Hold on now, my brothers in arms. It's 1964, civil rights, a civil war. We're going where we've been before, black and white, rich and poor. Selma, D.C., Dr. King, was anybody listening? Still divided lines are drawn. This just keeps going on. Here we are at it again, choosing sides against our friends. Black and white, red and blue, nothing changes, nothing's new. Nothing's learned when bridges are burned. We all forget which way to turn. Brothers lost in Bunker Hill, a daughter's life in Charlottesville. Brothers in arms, don't even know what we're fighting for. Lost in the fog, can't see the shore. Don't even know what we're fighting for. Brothers together, who's if we're brothers apart? Where does it end and why did it start? We all get to choose if we're gonna do harm. So take my hand.
Well, one of the things that I find fascinating as we perform Brothers in Arms is that grandparents, regular middle people, parents, and children all seem to be digging it and kind of grooving to it. And in that moment when you're singing a 3-minute song, you do see how people from completely opposite perspectives can come together for however long a song is, 3.5 minutes or so.
Right.
And just genuinely have a good time and express themselves and feel like we're all together in this. And we may not agree, we may not be feeling great about each other right now, but right now, this little magic moment, we're all in it together and we're going to figure it out. Life is messy, and that's what it's about, is how you get through the difficulties. It's not the difficulties that are important, it's how you get through them together.
I always ask the audience before we do this song to hug the person next to them, particularly if they don't know them. And I said, that's just a small piece of what the solution looks like.
You bring a little church to the song.
Yeah,
that's
you know.
cool.
Yeah, Ken was a priest at one time. He didn't talk about that. He likes wine. We know that.
And I like wine.
He's been on his knees begging for priests.
He begs for wine.
Before.
He was a nun. Yeah.
We've lost all control on this show now.
Look out. Edit.
No, we won't edit that.
Part of our kind of our mission statement in our own minds, is we want to do music that has some value and some meaning to the greater world, and music with a message, and not in a hardcore way, but just
no. But you're still wanting to create an impact,
right?
Not in a preachy, in a we know the answers way. Do what we say.
Because do you know the answers?
No.
Because
yes,
I'm
we do.
looking.
But we don't.
The thing is that there are a lot of great love songs already out there, and I don't necessarily think that we need more love songs unless there's, they can be done in
unless you have something new to tell.
Unless you have something new to tell, but there are a lot of things that besides that to write about.
I think there's never been a better time for a retro Americana feeling group that gives the message of hope the way this group is doing, because we're non-specific, we're thought-provoking, and we want to make sure that we are sending the message of thought right down the middle, not committing, not alienating anyone at any time. And so through the message of music, this group is able to get over with anybody, because many times the fans and the people in the audience come over and they find themselves in the music, and there really cannot be anything better for a musical group, to be able to touch people like that.
And we have such different ways to deliver music these days. We touched briefly on it during one of the breaks. The social media platforms that are out there now. It's we're not so constricted to trying to get a song on radio. You still need to do that to get it out there, but now you have YouTube, you have iTunes, you have all these. You have podcasts like this that you can get your music heard out there, and so you can reach a completely different audience than you could that are within the confines of that one radio station.
Right, and we've built a pretty massive following in Europe and Brazil and some other parts of the world already. Now, actually, just recently, in the last few weeks, the people in the Philippines have latched onto us. So, and that's all through social media and the videos that mostly clips up to this point. We don't have an official music video of us playing. We did just release a video of this Songs from the Fire album. It's a mashup of these 3 songs, and that's just sort of taken off over the last couple days.
And that's on YouTube?
It's actually on our Facebook page at Stereo Chickens. It's up on I just put it up on YouTube because to embed it back in the our website, but so they can find that on at stereochickens.com. They can find it on our Facebook page, Stereo Chickens. And so we're pretty excited. We're hoping to tour Europe at some point in the coming year. Americana is hugely popular there. And also, apparently, it is in Brazil.
Well, I was going to say, in Americana music, it's interesting. They don't, in Europe especially, they don't look at jazz as jazz or blues as blues or rock as rock. To them, it's just great music. Right. And so that Americana signature actually becomes a little more of a broad stroke than it does here in the States. We don't get so genre specific over in Europe that we do here in the States. Right. So yeah, you're obviously covering a bigger base.
And I think they understand social media. Social impact concerns over there. Europe is going through a lot of the same things we're going through here.
They're more engaged politically over there in general. Yeah. You probably noticed that.
They take time, not that it's so much musically related, but they do take time to sit down and have a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. We're busy going through a drive-through and grabbing it and hitting the road. And, my first time in Italy, I remember I went to a little cappuccino bar, and I sat down, and they brought the little cappuccino and an actual honest to goodness mug, or a cup. And I'm like, no, I want to take this with me. And they're like, no, you sit down, And I think it's important.
Can't have our cup.
Yeah, and I think it's important musically that we do the same thing. That we need to transition that into listening to music. Don't be so quick. And Gary, I don't know about you, but with me, sometimes a song just hits me the first time, and you go, that's amazing. And then other times you'll listen to a song. In my case, sometimes 10, 15, 20 years later, and you go, I've never heard it that way before in my life. I've never heard that lyric in that sense. And you almost rediscover the songs.
Yeah, I think, people need to take time to, smell the roses and listen to music and listen to lyrics and slow down a little bit and be a little bit more engaged instead of texting and calling more people so that they can hear the inflection in someone's voice. You just can't hear the emotion in a text, and it's being a little lost. It's being a lot lost. So we'll carry the banner for the music and for the message here, and I think this group has a really great future. Not only spiritually but musically.
Tom, Ken, Cynthia, Gary, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
As we go out here, we're going to play a little bit of Crazy Fool as we end the day.
Just a man, flesh and bone, feeling guilty. Feels like home. When I'm homeless, you're my shelter. When I'm worthless, you make me better. Why do you love me the way you do? Why do you love me, you crazy fool?
I'm just a girl with dark brown eyes. You see right through me, through my disguise. So go ahead and leave me, but you say never. I say how long, you say forever.
Why do you love me the way you do? Why do you love me, you crazy fool? When I'm homeless, you're my shelter. When I'm worthless, you make me better. Why do you love me the way you do?
Always leave the light on so I can find my way back to you.
When I get it all wrong, telling you lies, hiding the truth. Why do you love me the way you do? Why do you love me, you crazy fool? I'm just a man,
If you're interested in learning more about our show, drop us a line at musicpodcast@mail.com. That's musicpodcast@mail.com. If you have any suggestions of persons or topics that involve some facet of the music industry that you'd like to hear about on our podcast, please feel free to let us know. You can follow us on Facebook on the Business Side of Music podcast page. You can also find us on Twitter at Music Business Podcast. Also, if you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, post a review on what you think of our show. This is Bob Bender, and you've been listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender for Bob Bender Productions. Co-producer for the show is Vinny Rivas. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Los Angeles, California and Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Fuson.